Welcome back to Happy Hour with Heather and Guest, episode number 116. I'm that other dude, Andrew, and today I'm joined by Heather.
Hello.
And today we're going to be discussing. So, this is going to be a little bit new. You had suggested when we spoke a while ago potentially having new categories on the show instead of.
Yeah.
So, this was one where I thought, because Blind Dog formed, I think, in 1995, and then they split in 2008. Um, and I know they re-released the album we're going to talk that I suggested we talk about, The Last Adventures of Captain Dog. Originally, that came out in 2000, and then they re-released it in 2020. And I think that's the last time, that any of their music has been released. So I thought they were definitely worth talking about, even though they weren't playing music anymore. And I thought that could be one of the interesting elements that we talk about, maybe as bands who have split, but whose music should still be discussed.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's always the hope that they might come back. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know, but anyway, what did you think of Blind Dog?
Wow. And yeah, I listened to the 2020 remastered version, and I think did they release did because I saw 2000 and then I saw 2009, so I'm wondering if it's had like some different releases. But I was amazed that this band is from Sweden. If you played a song for me and asked me where I thought the band was from, I don't think Sweden would ever enter my mind. Last week I mentioned that Nebula Drag is essential stoner rock, and I've read about how Blind Dog have been so important in the stoner rock scene. So this is another essential stoner rock band to revisit and see how they have contributed to the stoner rock sound. They're more on the bluesy side of stoner rock, and I thought that the singer's voice, it has a gritty sound to it, which I think is perfect for this style of music. And I love the song Beyond My Reach. It starts out kind of straightforward, and then it builds into this powerhouse of a song. When he sings, I wish that I was pretty, I wish I was cool, I wish I was an astronaut instead of a fool. I was like, oh man, me too. This really is a great album. The songs are well thought out and put together brilliantly. There's tons and tons of great guitar riffs. There's songs that are introspective and there's songs that are more anthemic. And the whole album is about an hour long. And listening to this is a great way to spend an hour of your time. When I was listening to this, I was thinking we should make a list of what we consider to be perfect albums. And I know that's really subjective, but I feel like this record should be on it.
Yeah, that's a great. I had the same. I like a fully formed album that you could listen to from front to back without having to skip anything. There's no filler. Um,
Yeah. All killer, no filler.
all killer, absolutely. Um, yeah, it was interesting because I think I know I shared this post a while back, but there had been a video someone created on Facebook of a security guard, I think, um, that was outside of what looked like a deflated circus tent, and this song was playing in the background. So I'm sorry, this song is called "Coming To," and the beginning of the song is sort of psychedelic and very mellow, and then the bottom drops out, and it just becomes this like really incredible riff. That's like it's like if you're looking in a history book and someone is talking about, well, what's an example of the perfect stoner groove, then this track might very well be there. So then, from underneath this deflated balloon, come all these stoners, and the security guards like trying to arrest them and stuff, and they're all sprinting away as the song hits its zenith. And that's what hooked me. I heard that and I was like, "Who is this band? I have to find this band." Um, so then I found Blind Dog, uh, who are from, and I believe it's Halmstad, Sweden. And I think they formed in '95. And I read that they formed because two of the musicians needed a drummer to play for a gig at a party. And I think they found the drummer, and because they played so well together and they enjoyed the same music, I think they decided to form a permanent band. Um, so yeah, so then they were together from '95 to 2008, and subsequently they split. And I think this was maybe the first or the second full length album that I know they have like a few full length albums that they've released. But this was the one, The Last Adventures of Captain Dog, where I was like, okay, this is essential. Like you said, like with Nebula Drag, it's essential stoner listening. Um, and sometimes stoner will include elements of other, there'll be some psychedelic elements to it. There'll be some sludge elements to it. There'll be some doom elements to it. This, I feel like it's pure stoner. Like this is I don't drive at all, but I feel like this would be the album I would want in a convertible just while I was zooming down the highway at 90 miles an hour, because it's really a great up tempo. Um, Even the songs that aren't up tempo feel like there's a lot of power behind them. There's a lot of drive. It seems like this is the perfect music to psych yourself up or go on a long road trip. So that's how I was drawn to it. Um, and then really it was the song "Coming To" that sort of hooked me right off the bat. And then I started listening to the rest of the album, and I was like, oh, these songs are great too. Um, and I have taken a page from your book as well. Now I do lyric analysis for every album we listen to, and there were a couple of essential lyrics I thought for the song "Coming To." Feel strange, try to trick my mind, pretending to be sane, does it every time. Hell no, I don't know the rules. I'm a magician, captain of the fools. And all I could think about was when you and I did edibles before, and it was just 5 milligrams, and I should have just done like a half of a milligram, and I did 5. And then as I kept hoping that it would subside and I would begin to come out of it, I think about these lyrics. Pretending to be sane, I'm a magician, captain of the fools, and thinking like, oh no, have I still lost feeling in my feet? Yep. Okay, I still got like another 40 minutes of this. Um, so
And
yeah,
you and you didn't panic.
no, well, I was safe.
Yeah,
I felt,
yeah.
as someone who, this is not my first trip to the rodeo, so I know that like, okay, eventually it may not be as pleasant as I would have hoped, 100% of the time, but I mean, you were making me laugh. We were having a great time. So I was like, you know what? At some point, I'll hit the right status quo for this, and I'll feel comfortable. It may just take a half hour. Um, but that's what I thought about when I actually listened to the lyrics. Most of the time when I hear this music, I'm all about the riff and just like the drums, the bass, the guitar, the singing, but I'm not so focused on the words. And then recently, I've begun to think more about, lyrics are 50% of the song most of the time. So, um, but yeah, so part of me is curious um, about whether or not they will get back together, or if any of the musicians are playing in different bands right now, or what the deal is. I feel like they have a really great rapport with each other. The music they make is stellar. So it'll be interesting to hear.
Yeah, I saw their Facebook page is active and they're posting on it. So
Yeah,
Fingers crossed.
well, it's funny because I posted the photo of us to promote that we were going to listen to them, and it's the photo of me bearded wearing Viking horns, and you have the crown on.
Yeah.
And someone, I don't know who, but someone in Swedish asked if that was an AI photo of him because it looked like him in that photo.
Oh yeah.
So I used Google
Yeah.
Translate to ask him if I thought, perhaps were we twins. Um, he said no, just in that photo. So, um, but it was also a risky move because I didn't know how accurate Google Translate was. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it was fun to converse. Maybe there's someone who looks like me when I've got a beard. Um, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, supposedly we all have doppelgangers, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's entirely possible. Uh, yeah, I'm interested now. Like Last Adventures of Captain Dog, I know historically is like it is heralded as one of the great stoner albums of the last quarter century. Um, I'm curious to go back and listen to some of their other stuff just to see um, how they developed or if they continued to perfect their sound. I haven't listened to any of their other stuff yet. I was sort of like I heard this and it was like a tuning fork and it like lulled me in. I was like, I must listen to this album. And then I could only find it on YouTube. And then I saw on iTunes it got re-released, and I was like, "Oh, here we go, bingo!"
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. And I think of stoner rock as like this umbrella, this big
for
umbrella.
sure,
And
sure,
then like underneath the umbrella is like desert rock and you know, some of the what space rock,
mm-hmm.
uh, the different types of stoner rock, like they're stoner rock, but they're the different more specific genres that are under the stoner rock umbrella, and that's how I think of it.
Sure,
You know,
sure. Yeah, well, I mean, like Caius is a good representation of a certain
like
genre
desert
within
rock.
stone. Yeah,
Yeah,
that desert rock. Like this band reminds me a lot of them, and just in terms of like the bluesy quality to it,
yeah,
and the up tempo quality to it. They don't. Neither band sounds similar, but I get the impression that they're both using the same building blocks.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
so if you're into that, like really solid bluesy driven stoner rock, then this is the album for you.
yeah, yeah. I think anyone that gravitates towards that type of music should definitely give this a listen.
Did you did you ever see the or hear of the movie Vanishing Point? Um,
That sounds familiar.
it's one of those. It came out, I think, in '71, and it's about a guy who's hired to drive a car. And I'm not a car person, so I don't remember the model. I think from uh, I don't remember where he's starting from to like Los Angeles or San Francisco, and the cops are after him, and he's. It's one of those. It was like Vanishing Point, and what are the other famous like car Bullet? Um, but yeah, so I feel like this album could have been the soundtrack to that, like racing across the desert, counterculture,
Yeah,
up tempo type stuff. Um, I'm
yeah,
I'm surprised that maybe someone has tapped these guys for soundtracks, but I feel like this is perfect soundtrack music.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. And that's a really, I think that's a really good analogy with driving the car across the desert. Yeah, that this would be the perfect
Yeah.
soundtrack for that. Yeah. So, yeah, that
Well,
would be pretty cool.
yeah. Well, we'll have to see about making that happen. Renting a convertible like Dr. Gonzo and his lawyer. Um, but yeah, I thought this could be like the first, and then at some point we could find another band that we like that have split but made really good music worth checking out. So I thought this could be a new
Yeah.
category.
Yeah.
So today we
Yeah.
reminisced about Blind Dog from Halmstad. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Sweden. And yeah, I'm gonna check out their other albums because these are dynamite songs.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
Cool. All
Yeah.
right. Well, anything else about Blind Dog?
Nope. Can't think of anything.
All right. Well, we'll be back next week. It's your turn in the rotation.
Yeah.
So I look forward to seeing. Until then, everybody have a happy weekend. Take care, and we will see you next week.
Bye.